Greetings, growers worldwide. Jordan River here, back with more Growcast with just the right amount of cinnamon. Today we have Doug and Leanne from Hygrozyme back on the line. You know and love Doug. They came on the show once before. I highly recommend you check out that last episode as well. And we pick up right where we left off. Today we are diving deeply into enzymes, talking about some specific enzymes and how they function, how they occur in nature. We talk more about the research that Hygrozyme does when creating their products. And we talk about cinnamon a lot. It's a really cool episode. I know you're going to love this one. Do stay tuned. We've got some big Growcast news during this episode. The Key Lime Madness Fem Drop is happening Monday. It's slated for Monday. Be ready. As you're hearing this today, oh my goodness, that's today. Should be dropping later this afternoon as you're hearing it. Make sure you're in membership so you save $20 per pack. Growcast.com/seeds for the seeds. Growcast.com/membership for the membership. And get in there for the Grand Pheno Hunt starting 2:15. It's perfect timing. So stay tuned for that later today. You'll hear more about it during this episode. But before we get into it with Doug and Leanne, shout out to AC Infinity. That's right. AC Infinity's been with us for a long time. ACinfinity.com for all your growing needs. Tents, lights, fans, the best in the game. And Growcast 1.5 gets you the biggest savings there on the site. Plus, new to Amazon, if you use code Growcast15 on your AC Infinity Amazon order, you now get 10% off on Amazon. So they've raised that code a little bit. I think it used to be like 5%. So if you prefer the Prime shipping, go to Amazon.com. Whatever AC Infinity product you need, put it in your cart, use code Growcast15, you'll get 10% off. Or go right to ACinfinity.com, use code Growcast15, and you still get free shipping on orders $99 or more. So like I said, grab a Grow Tent kit. There's no better place to just grab a complete kit. Their Ion board lights are nice and affordable. Their Ion bar lights are fantastic to use for flowering. Tents of all different sizes. Like I said, the best aeration in the game. Go check it out. Growcast15 works on the website. Gives you 10% off on Amazon on all AC Infinity products. Huge shout out to AC Infinity. Thank you. And thank you, listeners, for using our code. It helps us. It helps you. It helps them. And it's all at ACinfinity.com with code Growcast15. All right, everyone, let's get into it with Doug and Leanne. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody. You are now listening to Growcast. I'm your host, Jordan River, and I want to thank you for tuning in again today. Before we get started, as always, I urge you to share this show. Turn a grower on to Growcast. It's the best way you can help us out. Check us out at growcast.com. It's the new website. Everything is up there. We got the classes, we got the membership, the Grand Pheno Hunt, and so much more. It's all at growcast.com. Thank you for tuning in today to Growcast Podcast. And we have a couple of return guests, fan favorites, instant fan favorites, back on the line for another round. From Team Hygrozyme, we've got none other than Leanne and Doug, both back on the program. How's it going, Leanne and Doug?
Hey, Jordan. Doing well, thanks. How are you?
Doing excellent. And Doug, good to see you again, my friend.
You too. Nice to talk to you again. Doing well. Hope you're doing well, too.
Welcome back to the show. Like I said, Hygrozyme, you guys are awesome. Your line is a great product line that we respect and we love. But more so than that, you guys coming on the show is absolutely incredible. People love to hear from you guys. The last episode got rave reviews. So I'm happy to have you back as a team. Why don't you catch us up on what you guys have been up to? I know Hygrozyme is super, super busy with development and, getting the word out there and promo and all that fun stuff. So what has Hygrozyme been up to, Leanne, largely since we last spoke?
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. I mean, we always love coming on to the show and getting to talk to you and getting to interact with your listeners. So thank you for having us back again. As for what we've been up to lately, I mean, I think the better question is, what haven't we been up to lately? We've been working on our recent launches for Hygro Punch and for our Nutrient A and B. Nutrient A and B was launched into US and Canada just a few months ago. So we're still going really strong on that, working with all of the retailers and distributors and social media and all that fun stuff, just getting the buzz out there and getting everyone's feedback. And then other than the product side, we're prepping for events. We're working on, maybe some new things for the future and just keeping busy.
I love that you guys drop a lot of, breaking information, a lot of teasers here on the show. That does mean a lot to me, and my audience always gets hyped. So my understanding is we might be talking about another upcoming product You guys have been hitting it out of the park lately.
Thank you.
Been using Hydro Punch in my garden, particularly. Really liking that product quite a bit.
Nice.
So I love to hear it, and I love that you guys are keeping up the good work. For those of you who didn't catch the last episode, I would go back and listen to that. You could just easily Google Growcast and Hygrozyme. It'll come right up. And last time we spoke to Leanne as well as Doug. Doug, I don't want to get your title, your official title, wrong, but I do know you are over there in research and development. You're the science guy. What have you been up to? Are you busy in the lab? What type of research have you been keeping yourself busy with?
Oh yeah, we're always busy in the lab. We're always looking at what can we develop next. That's gonna obviously provide some benefits to the grower, right? I look at a different, not just one specific product, but look at all different product concepts, all the way from nutrients as well as from biostimulants, as well as also potentially for another crop protection product. And also too, we're expanding our grow area a little bit here as well too, and so we can obviously have more plants to evaluate. So I have a couple other really good scientists on the team as well too. One in formulation, so he creates all the products and put everything together, make sure that the formulation are compatible, the shelf life, efficacy, and whatnot. And then also have a biologist person and a grower that he tests all the product concept that we have. And then, obviously make sure dial in the right dosage, application intervals and all that goodies.
What are you guys growing in-house to do that research?
We're growing cannabis.
Yeah.
Really? I thought that you were going to say like you have a Hygrozyme cannabis grow?
We do have a research license.
We have a license. We have a license to do that. Yeah. We have a research license that to do that. And so, because, hey, the product, you got to test it on the actual plant, right?
I mean, listen, maybe I just took that for granted because I know you guys were doing your own in-house testing on pests and stuff. I don't know if I really put that together that you guys are growing cannabis. That's fucking awesome. Yep. Canada sounds awesome. Where's the Growcast research license? Let's get it together.
Yeah. It's really neat. And like Doug said, we're really passionate about if we're going to be launching these products into this industry, into this market, then that's the crop that we need to test on. So we do have some tomatoes and other plants and stuff in-house as well, but we do have, our very own research license.
Leanne, are you in the garden at all? Are you in there pruning? What's going on?
I'm in there filming.
She's nice.
Totally.
You're filming for sure. Yeah.
Okay, that makes so much sense. A lot of your content, that's I just never really put that together, that was like a Hygrozyme research license. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's all done in-house.
In-house, literally in-house, indoors, in-house. I'm super excited to talk about some of those trials and what you guys have been researching. Before we get into today's meat of the episode, though, we're going to talk about enzymes. We're going to talk about citric acid. We're going to talk about pest control, a whole bunch of fun stuff. But I do have to just take one moment and thank Leanne, thank Hygrozyme for sponsoring the Grand Pheno Hunt Round 1. This was the coolest. I really think this was the coolest competition I've seen in the cultivation world.
It was very cool.
Leanne, people loved it. It was so incredible. The guy who won was so stoked to win $1,000. Yeah. He was over the moon. I visited the top 3 finalists personally. The final winner, a guy named Sherm, a member named Sherm. He's up in Minnesota, right at the Canada border, in the middle of nowhere. And he grew a peach smash pheno that was just gorgeous. I mean, just beautiful. Crimson, pink, and purple, and smelled like peaches and a little astringent and so good. And you guys you put up the money. He said, I'm so stoked to win this money. He said, I'm putting it right back into my grow. I just wanted to take a second and thank you. Grand Pheno Hunt #1 was an absolute smashing success. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We were really happy to be able to participate in that, and thank you for, organizing and hosting that whole competition. It was really, really cool to get in there and see everybody's photos. I have never wanted smell-o-vision to be invented more than looking through the photos of the Pheno Hunt.
Good call. So true. The smell-o-scope. Yeah, I really can't thank you guys enough. We're doing round 2. Hygrozyme already signed up to be a sponsor of round 2. Seriously, you guys, it humbles me to see these people like you who truly care about the plant. You're actually growing it. You're actually supporting the community. You're putting on these contests that people love. And with my help, and I'm grateful for that. So, and enough mushy stuff, but seriously, thank you. And I just want to give you your props. Like, you guys you walk the walk. You're not just here to make a quick buck. You love the plant, you love the community, and it shows. So I want to say thank you.
Much. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, we're always really glad when we get that feedback and when it comes across, because at least in my opinion, like, this industry is all about community, and we've really wanted to be a part of that and kind of, yeah, be as involved as we can with the people on the ground that are growing the plant. So I'm glad that it shows.
It really does. I super appreciate you guys. So listen, speaking of the plant, and before we get into these questions, I can't get over this "you're growing in-house" thing. What are you growing? What cultivars do you grow? Do you grow like more hempy stuff, or are you growing your favorite strain to smoke? Or?
No, they're not more hempy. I would say, we work with we also work with a provider that provides all the clones for us, and so we kind of pick the one that's going to be conducive to our facility and things like that. So I believe we have 2 strains in there right now.
Well, what are they? Do you, off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I don't know off the top of my head. Yeah,
sure.
I can definitly find that out.
You got to follow up on that for sure.
Yeah,
because that would interest someone like me. It's so cool. You guys are literally like scientists in the lab working every day with this stuff. Leanne, follow up on Growcast TV with that, because I want to know what strains are being grown at Hygrozyme HQ.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have to get that info over for you.
And I'm sure you're testing the products.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know it all started with Hygrozyme, which is really kind of what I want to focus on today, looking at the beginning of these questions. Enzymes are a buzzword that gets thrown out a lot in the grow world. And I'm sure, as you know, you can dedicate your whole life studying them and the science behind them, I'm sure. So what I would like to do is do a little bit of an enzyme deep dive, a little bit of an enzyme exploration, a presentation here, and just kind of learn more about what enzymes are, how they behave, what functions they perform in your products, but also like in nature, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I can kind of set the stage with the 30,000-foot view, and then Doug, maybe you can correct anything that I got wrong and go a little deeper. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
So here's my understanding of enzymes and basically what they are and how they work. You got your microbes, your living organisms in the soil, right? Which do things, mostly break things down. Maybe these microbes are breaking down rock phosphate for phosphorus. Well, what do they use to break that down? They produce enzymes, right?
Yeah.
What someone described enzymes to me was almost like the saliva of the microbes. Like, they produce these compounds and the saliva just kind of starts the digestion process, right? And that's really what they're doing. So my understanding is that enzymes there's billion different kinds, right? There's a zillion different kinds, and they all do very specific things, break down just this or just that, right?
Yeah.
But I think where a lot of growers go wrong is, like, the enzymes are not living things. They are chemical compounds produced by living things, right?
Yes.
So that's where there's a little bit of confusion there for some people. So let's focus in on the ones that we're concerned with. You talk about cellulase being in your product, the enzyme cellulase. Like I said, tons of different kinds of enzyme. This is a specific enzyme. What does cellulase do? How does it occur in nature, and why is it important in Hygrozyme?
Before I kind of get into deep dive in cellulase, as you mentioned, enzymes are very specific, right? Enzymes really are basically proteins. And then the proteins are then composed of amino acids. And then enzymes are specific because they actually fall into what we call tertiary structures, right? They act as a biologic catalyst by basically accelerate chemical reactions.
Sure.
Make it go faster.
Yeah.
And each enzyme has a very specific substrate that they can fit into. And then that enzyme then converts that substrate into different products. Without enzymes, plants, animals, and even us, to a certain degree, will be stuck in slow motions, right? It will take forever to grow and stay healthy.
Right.
And I think in a previous episode, we heard about, I think Leanne explained a little bit, enzyme kind of works like a lock and key theory, right? In terms of our products, the Hygrozyme, obviously it contains a very specific enzyme, cellulase, right? So cellulase has a very specific substrate too, cellulose, right? Cellulose is one of the most abundant polymer in nature, right? Cellulose is basically a molecule that's a polymer that's composed mostly of glucose, like many consists of linear chain, essentially, or many and even thousands of glucose chains, right?
Uh-huh.
So what cellulase does is actually it can take that cellulose and fit it into the enzyme substrate and start clipping them, basically chopping them off into simple sugars.
So, Doug, maybe you can kind of clarify for some of us that are less science minded, like myself, where would we see cellulose in nature? Like it's mostly in plant matter, right?
Plant matters, yeah. Like for example, plant matter, the hairs, the dead root hair tissue. Plant has hairs, and those hairs falls off fairly frequently. And so when they fall off, those are mostly composed of cellulose. And if you don't get the root zone clean, that's when you start encouraging pathogens formation. By having an enzyme like cellulase in there, it actually helps not only clean those dead root hair debris, but it actually converts those into simple sugars, which can then be uptaken by the plant as nutrients. Essentially, clips it into like glucose, right? Sugar.
Exactly.
So I've never really put that together. That makes a lot of sense. When you have these long glucose chains that form cellulose, like you said, if you were to just leave those alone with no cellulase, is that undesirable because then it hangs around for so long and starts to kind of decompose for so long and could possibly go anaerobic and a pathogen begins to form, versus chopping it up, like you said, into small pieces allows it to kind of break down faster and, like you said, just be turned into energy right away? Is that the idea?
Correct. Because the large molecule cannot be absorbed by a plant. And so when you break it down, you're going to be able to feed the plants, not only the plants, but if you're actually using any microbes, beneficial microbes, it'll actually feed those as well too. And when you feed those beneficial microbes, they're going to start populate, multiply.
Right.
Yeah. And breeding new enzymes and then, the cycle
It's like
continues.
the whole cycle continues.
I mean, I understood that it was feeding the good biology and kind of depriving the bad biology, but I never linked it to the idea that it's a long cellulose chain of, like you said, glucose molecules. And all you got to do is chop those up essentially. And then the problem basically fixes itself.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. So cellulase is being produced by microbes in nature all the time. You just concentrate it into a bottle with your product is essentially how it works.
Exactly. These enzymes, as you say, like cellulase and others, they're produced by, microorganisms. And exactly like you said, we just concentrate it and put it in a bottle.
Yeah, which is important with like the more that people get into indoor growing and greenhouse growing and all the different medias that are being used, right? Like a lot of those medias they would naturally have it in the environment, but when we're putting in cocoa or soil or rock wool, they're not going to have innately those microbes and those enzymes. So we're adding them back in basically.
Right. Well, and I mean, think about people who like chop and drop their leaves, right? And say you have a really good growth. That's a lot to rely on the microbes to keep up with all that enzyme production.
Exactly.
I think it's good to have that boost occasionally. I also use sugars the same way, to give them a little boost occasionally.
Yeah.
Now, I saw something else when I was looking into enzymes and Hygrozyme, which was hemicellulase.
Correct.
Is that super similar to cellulase? How does that differ?
Yeah, I mean, hemicellulase, obviously, then the substrate for that is hemicellulose. So hemicellulose is very similar to cellulose, except that the composition of it is different. Hemicellulose are composed of diverse sugars. So you can include like 5 carbon sugars. So glucose has 6 carbons. So whereas the hemicellulose could have 5 carbon sugars and things like that. So if you have hemicellulose, it's not going to be able to degrade by cellulase, but it will be able to degrade by hemicellulase. So it's that very specific substrate enzyme, like lock and key theory again.
But Leanne asked a good question last time. What does that look like in nature? Is that also just different types of plant matter, or is it like a specific?
That's also a different type of plant matter as well too. Yeah.
Got it.
I think that's kind of the key with enzyme products. There's a lot of different enzyme products out there, and we get the question all the time, like, what makes Hygrozyme different? What makes it unique? And really, for anyone interested in enzyme products, I would suggest just go and look at the label and see what enzymes they have listed. And knowing that each enzyme is very specific to the substrate that it's intended to break down, that's going to give you a really good idea of what that product is going to do in your grow and how effective it's going to be.
That's true. Some enzyme products do not list their enzymes, though, Leanne. One thing I like about Hygrozyme is you guys know what's in your product and you talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I know.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people just leave it out. So it's cool that we can explore these on air and talk about these.
Yeah, I mean, we list not only the enzyme, but we list the activity,
Yeah.
the unit activity of the enzyme, and on as well too. So yeah.
Xylanase was another one that I saw on there, and then you know what? That one's got a cool name. It's got to do something cool.
Xylanase is very similar. You know, it's also decomposed sugar, but this one actually decomposes sugar called xylane. But xylane is actually just a subtype of hemicellulose, but it's mostly composed of xylose residue, which is basically 5 sugar carbons, right?
Right.
So it's a subtype of hemicellulose, and it is also a plant matter as well too. So it's not like plant matter just composed cellulose. That's it. As with nature is all complex, so it has different forms, and this is one of the forms as well too.
That makes a lot of sense, especially like I said, if you're adding a lot of organic matter into your living soil, these are the types of things you should be thinking about, how to break them down faster and speed up that cycle. Big things going on at GrowCast. We have a Key Lime Madness Fem Seed drop happening today as you're hearing this. That's right. We are dropping the incredible Key Lime Madness pollination. We got over a dozen strains available for you in feminized form. I know you guys love that. This Key Lime Madness is so special, and it's available probably later today as this drops. Growcast.com/seeds will bring you right there, and check out the new website while you're there. We have the Grand Pheno Hunt coming up on 2/15, that's February 15th, where the whole GrowCast membership community is going to be hunting through a variety of genetics, and someone's going to win $1,000. We just wrapped up round 1. Shout out to Sherm. He's a member who took down $1,000 for his Peach Smash Pheno. And you want to get in to membership in February because with this round of the Pheno Hunt, you can pop any seeds in your collection. It's a battle royale, anything you got, old stuff, rare stuff, come and join us. Or grab that Key Lime Madness, baby, and hunt those. We're going to try to get them out as fast as we can. Hopefully we'll get you yours in time for the hunt. I would not count on that because I think it's going to be a very big drop. But get in on it. You know what I mean? That's the fun of the Battle Royale. Members also get $20 off per pack. So there's never been a better time to join membership. Growcast.com. Join the membership, get the code, grab the seeds. You're going to love this drop. It's Rhizo Rich's best work by far. A bunch of good crosses up there. I recommend the LA Kush cross, the Truffle Cake #2 cross, or the Purple Milk cross. Probably at the top of my list, but they all look amazing. So go check it out. Growcast.com. Growcast.com/seeds/membership. Go and get it, everybody. Thank you so much to all the members. Thank you to you listeners. Enjoy those awesome feminized genetics. Huge shout out to Rhizo Rich. Go grab his best work yet. I'll see you there. Growcast.com. We talk about enzyme products. We're right here. We might as well just go on to this question that has been burning in my mind for a long time. I take a look at these enzyme products. Like you said, sometimes they have the name of the enzyme on the back. Sometimes they don't. What I do see a lot is citric acid in these products. All the time I see citric acid. Sometimes you look at the ingredients and the only thing that they're listing is citric acid. What's the deal, to quote Jerry Seinfeld, with citric acid and enzyme products? Is it some sort of stabilizer? Why am I seeing so much citric acid in these types of products?
I think citric acid, it has a number of different functions. So one, citric acid itself is actually, you can call citric acid a chelator as well too, but it's very weak chelator. But citric acid is also used a lot in formulation for buffer, like to get the right pH balance. And that's important for formulating product like enzyme products, because you want a certain pH range so that the enzyme can be stable, right? We'll talk about that later. And so it's mostly for that purposes, at least in our products.
Yeah. It's mostly used as an inert, right, Doug?
Yeah.
So it's a non-active ingredient that's being used to, like you said, keep the parameters kind of stable in there. That's another thing that people, I think, again, when you think about taking care of these products, storing these products, like a microbial solution is different. You might have living microbes in there. You might have dormant microbes in there.
Right.
But the enzymes, you basically just want to keep these chemical compounds stable in there.
Correct.
And the pH is important, like you say.
Yeah.
What happens to why? Why is the pH important? Like what happens to the enzymes if the pH gets too low or too high?
Yeah, so both pH and as well as also temperature are two really critical parameters for products with enzymes. So when the pH gets either too low or too high, what you're going to start to do is you're going to denature. Remember what I mentioned earlier, that enzyme are composed of proteins, and they have this 3D, if you like, tertiary structure. So if you have the pH either too high or too low, you're going to start denature the protein. Essentially, you're going to render the enzyme inactive. You're going to start almost, if you like, decompose the structures, right?
So it's just kind of tear apart the molecular structure?
Exactly. And each enzyme, typically the enzyme, as it relates to pH, will have a bell-shaped kind of curve, right? So you see, okay, this enzyme might have an optimal pH around 6, and then 7 is still active, but might be like, say, not as active, and then 5 might be active, but not as active. And then eventually, if you go further to either the right or the left of the bell-shaped curve, it will become inactive.
And that's from like a formulation perspective, but there's also, targeting the pH of the mix. A lot of growers have a target pH, so we also want to make sure that we're coming up with a formulation that is keeping the active ingredients safe and keeping them in the spec that they need to be, while also making it easy for the grower to incorporate it into their mix without having to adjust pH too hard.
Yeah, because we want to make sure that the product could be used in, as Leanne said, with the grower's other product, like tank mix, right? It's very important, right? We don't want people to use products separately. We want to, every grower I know will like to tank mix everything if it's possible, because obviously it makes things easier. So we want to make sure that it's compatible from that sense as well.
That was going to be my next question, which is, I'm sure just like microbes, these enzymes are probably super unique, and that pH probably differs, but you can't have one that's like, oh, we got this great enzyme. It boosts photosynthesis. It boosts everything you need. It's you put it in at pH 9.5, right?
Right.
Because then you're like, oh no, this is going to swing off. This is mess up my whole game. So you got to keep it in that sweet spot. I'd imagine that nature kind of works itself out though, where are a lot of the beneficial enzymes kind of in that sweet spot.
Yes.
Close to 6. You know what I mean?
Yeah, nature is pretty smart that way.
Nature
right?
did us a favor on that one.
It's funny how that works. All of the aerobic bacteria work in harmony together. That's so funny.
It's almost like it was designed that way. It's crazy.
Sometimes it makes you think like it was almost designed that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd never thought of that. And people do say this with the effectiveness of enzyme products. They say if you don't get the pH of the application solution right, sometimes you're basically wasting your product. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say for sure.
Yeah, we do like to keep our ranges pretty wide for our products. We've made them pretty stable that way. But yeah, definitely the pH can affect the efficacy of the products for sure.
And then what about temperature? Is a little heat good to keep the enzymes moving and grooving, or does it differ on the enzyme?
Temperature is also important. It's similar to pH. It's kind of like a bell-shaped curve as well too. Generally, I would say at least for storage, the product, generally we recommend store room temperature. Of course, room temperature here could be different than room temperature in somewhere else. So my recommendation is always like somewhere around below 25 Celsius or 77 Fahrenheit, below that. In our case, that product is actually good for 2.5 years for Hygrozyme.
Yeah.
If you keep it at that temperature. And of course, if you go to extreme temperature, like really hot, you're going to denature the enzyme. You're going to inactivate it, right? And so we always encourage people to keep the enzyme stored at a proper storage locations, the environment, and that will help to prolong the shelf life.
So what happens if your enzymes get frozen over?
Good question.
Interesting.
Frozen over is actually good for the enzymes.
Get out of here.
If you can actually store your product in the freezer, you probably extend the product much longer than 2.5 years. The problem is it's inconvenient, right? For the end user. Like, when you want to come use it, it's frozen. Now you're going to pour it out. But if you do get product that's frozen, you can actually just thaw it back to room temperature to the liquid state. And don't use extreme heat. You can use lukewarm water.
Yeah.
Thaw it back to room temperature. Once it's back to room temperature, it's good to go. We have done that experiment many times. Yeah. But for us, when we ship out large quantity of the products, we actually use shippers that's actually heat protected. So we heat protect the product. So when the end user receive it, it's still in a liquid form.
Yes. And what Doug is saying about the freezing, that is for specifically Hygrozyme with
Yeah.
those enzymes because they're not living. It's a totally different story when you get into some of our other products like Hygroben with the beneficial microbes. Very product specific on the temperature.
You don't want the bacteria in Hygroben to be killed necessarily, but would you say that is this kind of the case with enzymes in general, the freezing thing?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to do any damage to the enzymes when you actually freeze it. It's actually its benefit. You prolong the shelf life. It's really inconvenient use. Like when someone,
Right.
like when I go to want to use a bottle of
Then you
crap,
have to thaw
it's
it.
frozen, right?
Yeah.
So it's really
There
that
you
from that
go.
perspective.
But still, you guys have dropped a couple of really great tips when it comes to just, again, thinking about enzymes and how they work. So store, like you said, kind of cool, dry place, like they always say, for similar to micro products, right? Out
Yeah.
of sunlight.
Yeah.
I'm sure about things like that, right? That is really, really fascinating about the freezing over. Any final thoughts on enzymes before we move on to some other things I want to talk about here, like IPM?
I have a question for Doug, actually.
Yep.
Doug, we talked about obviously the temperatures for storage. Is there any difference when we talk about the temperatures of the solution itself? Like if we're making a tank mix, is there any benefit to hot water versus cold water versus room temperature water? Can you tell us about that?
Oh, great question, Leanne. I'm going to need you to host the show for a few episodes.
I mean,
Thanks, Jordan.
for
Just a couple.
enzymes, yes, you don't want to use like boiling water, right? Because as I alluded earlier, if you're using boiling water, you're probably going to inactivate the enzyme.
Right.
I would imagine most of the grower uses like just either tap water or the
Mhm.
RO water, which is probably fairly neutral, meaning like temperature wise,
Yeah.
right? Room temperature, and those are fine, right? So hot water is definitely not recommended. And if you are going to use hot water, let's say I know some nutrient out there that they say, okay, use hot water to dissolve it,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I
But
would
then let it cool
let it
down.
cool
before
down
you
and then
feed.
before you feed, right? So it's
Yeah.
important that if you are using enzyme product or microbial product, that if I go to tank mix with nutrients, some of the nutrients out there, there are instructions that they say dissolve it in hot water. Mainly is because they can dissolve faster, the speed, right? Especially for powder nutrients. Then you want to wait until at least cool down to room temperature before you add in these enzyme product or microbial products.
Because the plants themselves won't love hot water.
No,
either.
they don't. No, they
You know?
won't. Yeah.
Don't feed your plants hot water, anybody.
No, but to your point, though, the cold water won't affect it so much, right?
No.
So if you let's say you don't want to water your plants with super cold water either.
No.
Let's say you're coming out of the tap right out in the basement when it's cold, but that's not going to affect the enzymes.
No, that's not going to affect the activity of the enzyme. Yeah. But yeah, the plant might not like it, but it certainly is not going to affect the efficacy of the product.
Very, very cool, you guys. I love the research stuff. All day I could talk about this type of thing.
Me too.
And he does.
That's awesome. You rock, Doug. Well, listen, let's keep it going then. I want to talk about HygroPunch because I've been thinking about our last episode ever since we did it and how cool it is that you get to just test. You get to do what a lot of people who are listening to the show would like to do for a living, which is you get to take different essential oils and test them against pests and see which ones are the most effective. How neat. How interesting. And of course, you talked about how you settled on cinnamon oil.
Yeah.
And how that's what you ended up using in HygroPunch, which, by the way, I love for scent purposes. Makes it smell much better than a lot of the other products out there.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of feedback on the scent. It's actually really funny. My favorite is that people always say it smells like Christmas, which I love.
It's true. Yeah, that's exactly right. It smells
I
like
guess so,
holiday.
yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Like cinnamon cookies.
Smells like Christmas gingerbread.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just want to know what else you learned during this trial, Doug. Anything else you learned, like why you settled on cinnamon, what type of repellent purposes were considered, if there were any oils that did really well against a specific pest, or were they all pretty much the same? I would just love to hear anything else you were interested in about these trials.
Those are all good questions. Let me take you back to the beginning. Yeah, no, I mean, it's not like we just say, okay, pick some oil and this is the one.
Mm.
So, what we did was, as you mentioned, Jordan, we screened actually many oils. We looked at two important things: efficacy and safety. And so safety is important. When I say safety, I mean phytotox. Does it actually like burn the plant? A lot of essential oil will burn the plant. I mean, I would say every single essential oil will burn plant, depending on the concentration. So we did a lot of screening to find sort of like the optimal dosage where we don't get phyto, but we get efficacy, right?
Mhm.
Right.
It's a balance, right? So you always have to balance those two parameters.
And just to clarify what you just said, Doug, it's not the oils themselves that is harming the plant or causing the phytotoxicity, right? It's the oils combined with the light. Is that correct?
Exactly, yeah. Although if you use extremely high oil content, it can also too. So that's why we always recommend apply the product, with the lights off. And if you're doing outdoor, obviously do it early in the morning or in the evening. I mean, even water itself can cause phyto. If you go spray water on the plant outside when there's like, say, 40 Celsius degrees, it'll also cause phyto as well too. So, but in terms of like how we settle on cinnamon oil, we also have thyme oil in there as well too. And so what we did was we test phytotoxicity and we test efficacy, and we find that balance where we say, okay, at these concentration of the two oil, and then at these dosage, they give us what we're looking for in terms of efficacy as well as in terms of safety.
That makes sense. Balancing which ones are most gentle on the plant. And was that kind of the deciding factor? I kind of imagined that all of these oils are probably going to kill a thrip pretty well. Was there any like magical standouts like, wow, spider mites hate peppermint oil or anything like that?
So not necessary. There are some oil that we screened, it didn't work efficacy-wise. So you got to remember these essential oils. So the essential oil contains two important components. The oil component, which every single essential oil will have,
Mhm.
Right.
they're similar to oil. But there are actually organic compounds in these oil. Those actually the component that does the real business. So for example, in cinnamon oil, the main component is cinnamaldehyde. It's actually an organic molecule. And that is really what we call the active ingredient almost in there. And it contains there's around 70% of that in that oil. And then, for example, in thyme oil, which is also another oil in Hydro Punch, thymol is the active ingredient. So the oil does play a portion of it, but the organic compound in these oils also is very, very important.
See, there you go. I thought it was just more of like a smothering process. Cinnamaldehyde, which sounds gnarly. I'm sure if you're a tiny little mite getting covered in it, you know what I mean? Your whole body's covered in it, which comprises between 60 and 90% of cinnamon oil.
And so, as you say, Jordan, like you're correct that the oil does cause suffocation of the insect by blocking their breathing hole and things like that. But some of these organic compound in there, what they do is they actually disrupt the cell membranes in fungals and causes cell inhibitions and ultimately, cell death.
Interesting. So specifically when it comes to fungal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah. So part of the reason, if I'm understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, but part of the reason we went with the combination of oils that we went with is they all have basically multiple modes of action.
Correct. Yeah.
And that is what helps our product from building up a resistance, right?
That's
or from
correct. Yeah.
pests building a
Yeah.
resistance to our product.
That's correct. I mean, essential oil, in particular in our case, these are well known that have multiple mode of actions.
Mhm.
And when you have a product that has different modes of actions, the pest or the fungal, it's gonna be less likely to have resistance over time.
Right. So that's why you don't just extract cinnamaldehyde and have
Exactly.
that. That's why you use
That's
the cinnamon oil.
exactly it. And we have, as I said, we have tested these products obviously on cannabis. We tested powdery mildew on cannabis. We tested spider mites on cannabis as well, and we tested on some non-cannabis product as well too. Things like cucumber, pepper, strawberry.
That is really cool, man. You're growing everything in the name of science.
Yeah.
So use it on anything, like all your products, right? There's not a single product in your line that you're not using in your veggie garden, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
And we have like non-cannabis usually using these products as well too out there. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of exotic flower users out there. Our products seem to work really, really well for those, for things like orchids and other tropicals, greenhouse crops like your tomatoes, strawberries, etc. All of our products are super compatible with indoor, outdoor, all kinds of crops.
And I use it in my garden. Once I have the garden going again in spring,
Oh yeah, me too. I'm a veggie garden. I've never been good with ornamental flowers, like really nice ornamental flowers. That's tough. That's tough growing.
They are.
They are tough.
Yeah, cannabis is one thing, but I'll use my Hygrozyme and it'll definitely help giving me a fighting chance. Listen, there's so much I want to talk about. We're actually pretty limited on time here, so I want to make sure we get in the points that we have to cover. I've been getting a lot of good reviews on HyClean, the line cleaners. So I want to continue the talk on enzymes and also move into like acids, right? Because maybe you can talk, Doug, about the difference between those two things because they seem very similar. These like two catalysts that tend to break things down. If you look at products like line cleaners or root flushing agents, a lot of times they have either an enzyme or an acid, or maybe sometimes both. I don't know. So do you want to talk on HyClean a little bit and what's in HyClean compared to other products?
Yeah, I mean, definitely can talk a little bit. I would, HyClean and I would say hypochloric acid, they're different. I would say they're almost complementary, if you like, in a way.
They can be.
They can be complementary in a way. And so the mechanism of action is different than the acids. We have a proprietary chelator in there. So what that does is actually it's really effective and efficient in removing buildup of salt and minerals. And also, too, it's really effective of a wide pH range, right? And so it doesn't really matter what the pH is. Actually, it works from pH 2 to all the way to pH 11. Of course, the growers never go extreme low either way. And it's also compatible. One of the best thing about HyClean is that it's compatible with beneficial organisms and enzymes, whereas hypochloric acid is very it's very tricky with that because you have to stay at a very low ppm to that because hypochloric acid, it can kill the enzymes. It can also kill your beneficial microbes as well.
Yeah, you got to forgive me. Last time we were on, you talked about this. You said how HyClean was
really
neither like an enzyme or an acid, right? It is a chelator.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So you answered that last time. I do remember that. All accomplishing the same things, though, right?
Yes.
Fascinating to think about.
Yeah, HyClean is a very unique product. And I think to go back to your question, Jordan, about why is HyClean superior? I mean, I think there's a time and a place for both. Being HyClean and an acid product like hypochlorous acid. If you need to wipe out pathogens or completely disinfect like your whole system, then yes, hypochlorous acid or hydrogen peroxide or something like that is going to be your best bet. But if you're looking for something to keep your lines clean, prevent buildup, prevent clogging, and increase your nutrient uptake and do all of that while keeping your lines clean, while maintaining your quality and your terpenes and your trichome content.
Your microbes, yeah.
That's where HyClean shines.
Yeah, it's gentleness for sure.
And also, too, I would add in early and that, we also have people that want to give their lines a deep clean in between growth cycles. And it's in our label, in that particular case, you can go much higher than doing a grow. And also, too, we have people using it as a flush at the end. It really, when you use it as a flush, it really brings down the EC down to whatever the EC of your water is using essentially.
Yeah, which also means you're using less water.
Yeah.
So if you're using something like RO water, can get really, really expensive. So by using something like HyClean, it's going to allow you to use less water and drop your EC faster. It also produces really, really clean white ash.
That is fascinating. And that makes sense because it's a chelator. Yeah. So you take a look at a lot of the flushing agents out there and you'll see enzymes and you'll see old school stuff like yucca extract, right?
Yeah.
But you don't really see HyClean just being a chelating agent used for cleaning lines and then flushing. So I like that. You're right. It just kind of puts it in a unique category. It's really cool. Use it as a flushing agent. I've been getting good reviews on this stuff. People say they've been putting it on everything, like salt.
Yeah.
Yep.
People loving the HyClean. So I'm going to try it as a flushing agent next. That makes sense that it would drop your EC. I love that.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about HyClean is there's so many different ways to use it. I've gotten so many stories over the years of cleaning bathrooms, cleaning tents, putting in dehumidifiers. It's crazy.
I use it to clean my bathroom shower doors and stuff.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. He said he used it as a household cleaner, basically.
Yeah, it works really well. And actually, I use it also to clean my my windshield on my car. It's fantastic.
That makes a lot of sense. The built up salts just like
Exactly.
in your soil.
Yeah.
100%.
That is wild stuff. That's why I love having you guys on. What else do you use in your in-house grow? You're obviously using the Hygrozyme line. Do you use anything else? What are you growing in?
We're using, of course, we're using our product. We're doing more testing our product. Want to optimize. We want to give the grower give them the best information or our product. And so now, because as Leanne said, in the last 6 months to a year or so, we released nutrient A and B. And now we have Hydro Punch. So now we have a product in each of the general category: crop nutrition, crop biostimulants, and crop protection.
You know what? We might just have to do a little tour for Growcast TV for the members or something. Just pop on and show us this garden, because I know my audience is already. Oh yeah, you're awesome, Leanne.
Oh yeah,
you freaking rock.
We'll go ahead. We'll do a live. I'll walk around with my cell phone.
Yeah, Leanne, I'm more than happy to turn you around.
Doug, you got to be there too, man. Of course we want Leanne to host, but we got to see what this grow is like. No, you guys are amazing. Seriously appreciate it. Now, we love a good teaser. Getting breaking info here on Growcast is one of my favorite things. My listeners love it. How far can you go talking about possibly another new product? I can't believe it, but another new product dropping.
All I can really say is that we will have a product launch in 2025.
Okay.
We'll have some new stuff coming. I can't reveal too much about what it's going to be or when yet, but all I can say is keep an eye on our socials. Keep up to date here with Growcast. I'm sure you'll be shouting it out, Jordan, when it happens. So yeah.
We'll get it out of you on the member show. Get in membership where we are able to pry more information out of folks when they feel safe. I think it's Hygroclone. That's my guess. I'm putting it in right now. Leanne will have a good poker face like last time when we were guessing. So you won't be able to tell right off the bat, but I think it's Hygroclone. Keep us posted on that. Looking forward to that. And thank you for the pre-teaser. We appreciate
get your bets in now, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Betting pool is open. Anything else here? We're going to talk about the Grand Pheno Hunt Round 2 for just a second, but any final thoughts, any final words or updates before we wrap?
We have a lot planned for 2025. So like I said, for anyone that's interested, keep an eye on our LinkedIn, our Instagram. We're at Hygrozyme on both of those platforms. We'll be posting about some upcoming events. I think we'll be in Boston this year. We'll be in Vegas towards the end of the year again, and some local events as well. And I'm sure more popping up between now and the end of the year that we've just started. So yeah, just keep an eye on things, and we hope you join us on the ride. And yeah, at Hygrozyme on Instagram and Hygrozyme on LinkedIn.
And don't forget Leanne Hygrozyme as well, the personal account. Don't forget to shout out the love there.
Yeah, Hygrozyme_Leanne on Instagram is my personal Hygrozyme account.
And then what about Doug? Where are you at, man? You're going to be in the lab, or are you going to be in the... Oh, you're on LinkedIn. Okay.
I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm definitely on LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn.
That's Doug Chow on LinkedIn. Go ahead and give a follow, everybody. Thank you two so much. This was a dope episode. And again, I want to thank you one more time for sponsoring round 2 of the Grand Pheno Hunt. And you always do such a good job on the show. You guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And if there's anything that Growcast can do for Hygrozyme, you reach out to us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jordan. Like I said at the beginning, we love getting to work with you, and we're always willing to come on and do another episode. And we can't wait to keep working with you and see all the results of the next Pheno Hunt. I can't wait to see all the pictures.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you so much, Leanne. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate you both.
Thank you, Jordan.
All right, stick around real quick. We will talk for a minute after the show. And you listeners, we'll see you next time. Stay tuned. We have some great stuff planned coming at you on Growcast Podcast. Growcast.com is the website. There you'll find everything. Go and check it out. Come check out membership. Get in before the hunt starts, 2:15. I'll see you there, everybody. That's it for now. This is Doug and Leanne and Jordan all signing off, saying be safe out there, everybody, and never grow alone. Bye-bye. That's our show. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Thank you to Doug and Leanne from Hygrozyme. I appreciate them so much. Really cool episode. I know you enjoyed it. Before we wrap it up, make sure you check out growcast.com. We've got some big stuff coming. Not only do we have the Key Lime Madness Fem Drop happening today, go and check that out, but jump into membership. Not only will you get $20 off per pack of the new drop, but also you'll get all the amazing benefits and access to the Grand Pheno Hunt. Starts February 15th. Come pop some seeds with us, hunt some genetics. You might just win $1,000. And plus, we got a bunch of other side prizes, tons of prizes to be had, not just the grand prize of $1,000. So come and grow with us. We've got the most positive, thriving community in cannabis. It's all waiting for you at growcast.com. It's so much better now, too. If you are an ex-member, come and check out the improvements. I implore you, come and check out the improvements. You'll love what you find at growcast.com. That's all for today, everybody. Thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. Be safe out there, be well, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. I don't know if I really put that together, that you guys are growing cannabis. That's fucking awesome. Yep. Canada sounds awesome. You know, like, where's the Growcast research license?